Hi guys, welcome to another episode of the Greenside Experience. Today we're going to talk about insulation, we're going to talk about vapor barriers or vapor retarders, and we're also going to discuss a little bit about windows. So let me show you what we've got going on. All right guys, we are in the master bedroom of one of our custom home projects, and in this project we are currently in the insulation stage, just about finishing up. And you can see behind me, we've got multiple types of insulation going on in this house. We like to call it a hybrid system. So I'm going to go through and explain each component to you and tell you how Greenside insulates our homes. So the first thing you see here is this Siga Majrex. This is a smart membrane. It's a vapor retarder, right? So the insulation we use in this house is Rockwool bats. It's a mineral wool, and it has many benefits. It's hydrophobic, which means it doesn't absorb water. It is a higher R value per inch than fiberglass. One negative is it doesn't come with a craft face or a paper backing. So because that paper backing on fiberglass is a vapor barrier, we have to apply a vapor barrier after we install the Rockwool. So you can see here, this is what the Rockwool looks like. It's actually made out of rock, thus the name Rockwool. The best way I like to think about it, it's cotton candy but made out of rocks. They actually take rocks and make fibers out of it and form it into bats. And that is an excellent use of it for insulation. And I like the benefit that it's hydrophobic. You don't have to worry about mold growing in this, and it pushes away the water. So back to the Siga Majrex. You can see we have it applied to the wall. We've got the joints taped, and we're using this as our vapor control layer. Quite often you will see Siga Majrex also used as an air barrier. We're not using it as an air barrier in this application. We don't have it taped to the floor. We don't have it taped to the ceiling. We just have the joints taped. So we're getting a solid membrane here on the wall that acts as our vapor retarder. So moving on to our next type of insulation, you'll see on the ceiling here, which is actually the roof of the house, we've got R30 fiberglass bats, craft face, which means the vapor barrier is the paper. And then on the flat, we've got R11. So you're probably asking, well, why do we have R30 on the slopes and R11 on the flat? Well, on the slopes, we're only required to have R30 insulation, right? But on the flat, we're required to have R49 to the village code and energy code. So when we have R11 bats at the top, the reason we do that is to get our vapor barrier with the paper, but then we come back and we blow loose fiberglass on top of those bats to get us up to our R49 required insulation and required R value. So it gives us a nice air seal too when you have the blown in on top. So the reason we use the R11 again is we want the vapor barrier. We don't just want to rely on the drywall or the primer paint for our vapor barrier. We actually want a hard barrier. We could have taken the Siga Majrex and wrapped up everything and done faceless fiberglass, but that's a matter of cost. It's much less expensive to use the fiberglass bats with the craft face on them than to come back a second I guess touch, you would say, where the installers have to come back and put the vapor barrier on top of it again. So another feature that we're doing in this home with insulation is we are sound deadening. I won't say soundproofing because there's no such thing as soundproofing. We say sound deadening. So we've put sound bat insulation. It's mineral wool again, but actually this is a different brand than the Rockwool. This is actually Owens Corning. So they both make mineral wool product, but some of it's used in a different application. So you can see around our bathrooms and the bedrooms, we've got it in the walls. This space is obviously a pocket door, so that's why it's missing here. We need that pocket for our door. But all the other walls have the sound deadening insulation to keep it as quiet as possible. All right, so we're in another bedroom in the house, and we are below the third floor, but the third floor exterior wall starts about here, okay? So this part of the ceiling is actually exterior. So we have to insulate this portion. Now, I could insulate this with standard fiberglass, but we're not going to get as much air seal and as much R value. And plus it's an attic space with some ducts running through. So I really wanted to go above and beyond and make sure that we had a really good job of insulation done in this section. So you can see we've used foam. So that's a third component that we use. We use fiberglass, we use Rockwool, we're using foam here. Now, which type of foam? This is actually closed cell. You can see that it's not taking up the full joist bay, because this product has the highest R value per inch of all the insulation products. So we love using this at different areas, corners, rim joists, all the specialty areas where you might have a pipe that's prone to freezing. And as we walk through, I'll show you different areas where we've used it. We really like to use a hybrid system of insulation in our houses. So now we're in the master bathroom, and there's a few insulation details that I want to show you in this room. The first thing you'll notice, high ceilings. Nice and dramatic, right? Because they're high ceilings, some of the wall space looks into the attic space, which the attic space is exterior, right? So that wall has to be insulated. So you can see this section, we've got all closed cell foam and closed cell foam here, all around the top. So that's sealing off that cap basically and keeping it nice and warm in here. And then we have our flat ceiling above, which is R11. We'll blow on top of that, as I mentioned before. But I wanted to really show you the shower. So I'm standing in the shower. It's a zero entrance curbless shower, but we have an exterior wall. So this exterior wall is actually doubled up. So the inside part of it is in the inside. It's not an exterior wall. The exterior wall, we've completely foamed it with closed cell insulation. So not only is that air sealed, but it has a high amount of R value, more than the standard wall. And why do we want to do that? Because we have all this plumbing in here, all this copper piping that's full with water all the time. So we don't want any of that to freeze and burst and create all kinds of damage. So this is typical of what we do in our showers, especially if they're in an exterior wall, is we will double the wall and completely foam the entire wall with foam, closed cell foam insulation. Then we turn the corner. This is an exterior wall. We foam the corner, but this can take standard Rockwool insulation with the vapor barrier, the Siga, and then this is purely for sound. This doesn't really need to be insulated, but it's sound deadening. Then when we come around, you can see all the other walls have the sound deadening insulation as well. I'm in the stairwell here. I want to show you one other product that we use. We talked about the fiberglass, we talked about the Rockwool, we talked about closed cell foam. Now I want to show you open cell foam. So this entire wall was actually a double wall. You can see here it's doubled, so we had a cavity that we had to fill. And rather than putting standard bats in here, the Rockwool bats, we thought it would be a better condition to spray it with open cell foam so we can get some air sealing and insulation and kind of kill two birds with one stone. And the reason we use open cell, because when you spray it out of the nozzle, it expands and it fills all the voids. And there was a lot of voids in this wall to fill. So it made sense, even though open cell costs more money than the regular bat, it did make more sense to make this an open cell wall. And you can see we do have areas where we might have a hidden pocket, a hidden void. So we'll actually drill out the studs, put the nozzle in there, spray open cell, and it expands. So this entire void now is filled with insulation. Okay, so we're in the front entry of this space, and this front entry is kind of made to look like it blends with the outdoors. We're going to have a flush floor. The same tile that's outside is going to be running inside, and this space is kind of meant to look like it's inside outside, but it is in fact inside, so we have to make sure it's insulated. On the vaulted ceiling, we have 2x8 joists, right? And the only thing that's going to work in there to maintain our R value is closed cell foam. So that's what we've got up there. Front doors installed. You notice we've got it covered. Site protection is super important. So as we walk down to the basement, I want to show you another condition that happens quite often as we transition from first floor to second floor. Our switchback stairs comes up against the foundation wall. This level here is our foundation. It's 12 inches thick. That's why this wall steps in. We have to have a framed wall inside it, but behind here, inside this wall, is a concrete foundation. Now that concrete is going to transfer the cold from the outside because the top 6 inches is exposed out here. And that's an area that you really have to pay special attention to. So again, we take our closed cell foam and we spray that entire wall with closed cell for air sealing and for extra R value. All right, so now we're in the basement. I want to show you how we handle insulation down here. First off, look at our rim joists. The rim joist is the area where the floor joists die into the perimeter of the house. Now, believe it or not, that's where the most air leakage occurs in a house, is at the rim joist. So we really want to get that sealed up as tight as we can. In addition to putting Siga Fentrum and our WRB on the exterior and sealing it, we seal it from the inside too. So all our joist bays, all the rim joists are filled with foam. And as we walk down to our sport court once again, we showed this in an earlier video. Now we're insulated. Above me is the garage. And because that's the garage, the ceiling is all precast concrete. Now, even though our garage is going to be heated with radiant heat, we still treat that space as if it's exterior. Because you never know, someday they might leave the garage door open in the middle of February, and now the inside of that garage is minus 10 degrees, right? So in order to combat that and insulate it properly, the entire underside of this precast concrete is sprayed with closed cell foam. Closed cell foam also gives us a vapor barrier. It gives us tons of R value. So that entire space is now closed off and insulated from the garage, this entire space. One other detail to show you guys is the can lights in this sport court. You'll notice that around each can light we do not have foam. We have Rockwool. Why do we do that? Because Rockwool is fireproof. It's not going to burn. So we're concerned that the heat from these high-powered cans, might get too hot, and we don't want that closed cell foam to catch fire. So we've kept the foam away from the can lights, and we filled in that insulation around the can lights with Rockwool. Even though they are UC listed, we still want Rockwool around there just to be safe. So we're in the exercise room. It's similar condition to the sport court. The space above is actually outside. It's the covered porch, and we've got precast planks here as well, precast concrete. So this needs to be foamed as well, closed cell insulation. The entire ceiling is sprayed and foamed. All right, guys, thanks for watching our video today about how we insulate our homes, the different systems that we use, of course, the Siga Majrex. If you like this video, comment, like, and subscribe. I think that's how you say it. And we'll see you next time on the Greenside Experience.